Okay, so we will use this as the framework for the rest of our course. So what this shows is you always want to have your objectives. We discussed about this. You want to go international because you want to either expand sales, or you want to reduce your cost, which means you want to acquire resources, or you want to minimize your risk because there are so many risks by staying in one country that you want to minimize your risk, and therefore you want to expand. Now, if these are your objectives, right, what are the factors that you have to consider before trying to achieve these objectives? First, you should understand what your operating environment is. We discussed about this last time. In fact, we ended up almost drawing this picture last time, right? So we said international business is affected by political policies, legal practices, cultural, economic and geographical influences. Right? We gave very few, one or two examples of all this. We will study some of these in more details. Then we have to worry about the competitive factors, because at the end of the day, unlike your domestic competitive strategy, if you are going international, you have to worry about global competitors and local competitors in those places. So what is your competitive product strategy, and what kind of resources will you have, what kind of structure will you have, who are the competitors in each market? All these things you will have to worry about. So you need to be aware of the operating environment in terms of physical and social factors as well as competitive factors. Okay. But in terms of what strategy you want to follow, how do you decide what strategies you want to follow? The strategy consists of three parts. One is the modes. So what is your strategy for entering a country? Do you want to enter just by importing and exporting? Under what conditions will you do import and export? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Why would you want to do it through either either licensing or franchising, turnkey, management contracts? There are several ways of doing it.
Conditions of import export means that quality, acceptance.
No. Conditions meaning importing and exporting is one way of becoming international. You don't have to become international by actually setting up an office in another country, right? You just want an export market. Because what are we trying to do? We are trying to expand sales, minimize resources or risk minimization. Sorry, resource acquisition or risk minimization. You can achieve all these three by using any of these modes. Now, as the commitment to your market increases as you go down, right? Because starting from importing and exporting, your commitment to the other market is minimum. Whereas as you go down to direct investment and portfolio investments, your commitment is so much more, both in terms of financial and other resources. Then you have to decide what is it you want to internationalize, because you have the whole chain. I was just seeing your marketing management book, right? I think just right next to Porter's model, it talks about the value chain of the company. So which part of the value chain do you want to go international with? Do you want to do everything international? Some of the things you want for this reason, some of the things for this reason, some of the things for the other reason. And if you want to do it, how will you do it? Right? So which function you want to internationalize is a strategic decision that you have to take. How are you going to enter that market is a strategic decision you want to take. The third strategic thing is, how do you choose a country? Right? Given all these competitive factors and all the social factors, how do you choose a country? Okay? And once you have chosen the country, once you have chosen the function that you want to internationalize, once you have chosen the mode in which you want to go international, you have studied the competitive factors and the other factors, then how do you structure your organization? How do you structure the control, which is the most important? Okay? How do you organize that international business, and how do you organize the control functions? So this is what is covered overall in international business. So if we can say, by looking at today's newspaper on the item on China, or tomorrow if you see a news item on the joint venture of Vodafone in India, or any international business news, if you see, if you can put it in this context, if you can say, by reading this, I can say that this company, this is what it's trying to do in these alternatives, this is the function it's trying to internationalize, This is the mode in which it is trying to operate in India or whichever country. These are the factors it should worry about. These are the social factors that will impact its business. If you can come to that level, I can confidently tell you that you have understood international business. Okay? So anything that you read in terms of international business news, please read it. When you read it, look at all these things. Maybe you will not get information in a single article on all these. But once you start asking yourself questions around this, whether Nokia wants to sell off a part of its business to Microsoft, or whether Apple brings in a new model in the market, finally we can fit it into this framework more or less. So from that point of view, I think this is a very good framework on which we go. Okay? So these are the things that we try to understand. Cultural environments, major causes of cultural differences in change. But this picture that I showed you, this we will use as a theme throughout the course. Okay? So what we are going to study today is more one of these things, cultural values.